All right, y'all, we're back. Round 2 here, episode 2, whatever you want to call it. Suspension tutorial on Mxbikes. Before I get going, I just want to give a shout out to Reese, Jen, and GWMX. You guys shared my video, man. That was cool. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, last video, you guys seemed to like it. A couple of you guys wanted to see a 250F Honda. So that's what we're going to do, 250F Honda. I figured last time we did a motocross track, this time we'll do a supercross track. Fair warning, I am not the best supercross rider in this game, but we'll try. I'm going to do Houston round 3 just because this right here, I know everybody hates this right here. A lot of people struggle with whoops in this game. I'm going to show you that it's not very hard to get through these if you just do a couple things and just pay attention when you're going into them. Do a couple little bike settings. So let's get with it. All right, so we're here at the track. As you can see, no setup here at all. So we're just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna try to make this video shorter than the last one because I know nobody likes watching super long videos. So if I kind of rush through some stuff a little bit, I'm sorry. So first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna go over here and adjust my air pressure just to what I'm comfortable with. That's what I like. Go over here, aggressive map. If your swing arm length is not 1 already, that's what I would set it at, because wheelbase, shorter wheelbase, like we talked about before, it's going to turn a little better, be a little bit more turning responsive, which in Supercross is what you want. Other than Daytona and maybe Orlando, I can't believe I don't know the name of that round, but the outdoor Supercross tracks, the really wide open ones, those are about the only Supercross track I would run a 2 swing arm length adjustment on. Just to get a little bit more straight line stability out of them, but for the sake of this track and this bike, we're gonna run 1. We'll go over here to our suspension, and we're gonna do a save as. We're gonna do it as YouTube SX, cool. And we're gonna test the sag on this bike, and just so happened that's what I was gonna set it at anyway. So motocross, like in the last video, anywhere from 108 to 110, maybe a little bit more for motocross. And it all depends on the bike. All the bikes are different. Some bikes need more sag to at least make me feel comfortable on them. But this is just as a baseline. I'm gonna run anywhere from 100 to 105 in Supercross on this bike, and other bikes like the Cowie and stuff. They're pretty similar feeling. So yeah, that's cool. We're gonna go right off the bat. I already know I'm gonna have to bump the rebound down because I don't want to be Pavoso bouncing around this whole track. So we're gonna run this down a little bit. You don't want to go too low on your rebound in Supercross, because in a motocross track it's fine. You can make your suspension super soft. Like I said in the last video, I try to make it as soft and as plush and stuff as I can in motocross, because for the most part there's really no big jump in motocross that I can't get over on a 250F, other than maybe Spring Creek's uphill. But anyway, if you start doing that same kind of a technique in Supercross, especially on 250Fs, you'll start soaking up jump faces more than you want. And there's a couple tracks where there's the big boy 250 lines that no matter how good you are at the game, they're a stretch to get over on a 250F. And if you go too soft, you'll start taking lift away. Like, you won't get any pop off the jump faces. So you gotta, it's like I said, it's a give and take. Keep that in mind. You go too soft, a little bit too plush, you're gonna start losing pop off jumps. So we're gonna run that 5. I already know these whoops at this track are going to beat me to death because I watched the PDSX race, or the aerial race here, and I watch people just continuously dying through them. So like I said in the last video, fast bump is for stuff like your braking bumps, your whoops, the really harsh, fast impacts, which that's what that implies, fast. So any fast suspension movement, this is pretty much like a dampening for that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to soften it up, because I want the first part of that travel to be plush. I don't want it to be stiff, because if it hits whoops and it's stiff, it's just going to deflect and bounce me everywhere. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do fast bump there. Slow bump, there's really nothing on the Supercross track that I think slow bump really helps for, other than maybe jump faces and maybe the way the bike sets into a corner. What I mean by that is when you get on the power, you'll feel the bike kind of sit down and squat. That's something you could mess with slow bump on a little bit. For the sake of this, since we're here, we'll bump it up 1. Bump it up 1 on both. And we'll save and just double check our stuff like we always do. It's really nice that this wall's here because I can't see my bike, right? But sag is good. Let's go to the track. And like I said, Supercross is a lot more technique oriented than it is setup, I believe, in my opinion. A stock bike setup on a Supercross track, you could actually get around it pretty decent. It's more or less just how you do stuff and, yeah, technique-wise and how you get through stuff. Look at that. As you can see, just cruise right on through, no problem. The Honda, the stock setup on the Honda is pretty good. So is the Cowie. So it's just more or less your technique. Something I want you guys to pay attention to is my little rider icon down there in the bottom right where my shifter is at. You'll see on all these jump faces, the majority of them, if I can, I'll sit down on them to soak it up. So it's not like a scrub, but you would be amazed on how much time it saves by just sitting down on the tops of all these jump faces. You don't want to sit down at the bottom because then your seat bouncing. You want to sit down right at the last second. And it really comes into play in this whoop section because I'm going to soak this first whoop up to make sure I get on top of those other ones like that. I didn't get on as good as I wanted to right there. But we'll just go over there and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. And this is something that I suggest all you guys, if you're not doing this, whether you're pro or not, this is something you should be doing. So the thing with whoops, most people would just say, oh, just come into this thing wide open and lean back. Well, yeah, you could try that, but you never know where you're gonna land at, you know? You might get lucky and tap your tire somewhere and start skimming them, but all it takes is for your bike to land like this, front end dipped in a hole or back end dipped in a hole, and you're going OTB or getting really off rhythm. So, something that you can do that I do, yeah, you might lose a little bit of time by doing this, but what's slower, losing a half a second coming into a whoop section or losing 7 seconds because you're on the ground? So I'll come in here, I'll stand up, this first whoop, I'll sit down right about here, and I'm trying to soak this first whoop up to ensure that I hit my front tire on this first whoop and my back tire. But granted, after I soak that first one up, you got to stand back up because you can't go into a whoop section sitting down. So I'll try to demonstrate that here real quick and you'll see what I mean. Because if you make contact with the first whoop and with your front and back tire, you're pretty much set through the whole whoop section, no matter really how big they are. Like that. I just made sure that I got on top of the first one like that, like I wanted. And yeah, I could just cruise through it, the rest of them. Now, it may not be the fastest way outright to get through them, but smooth is fast in Supercross, I'm gonna tell you that right now. You ain't winning the race if you're on the ground. Oh, man. As I say, you're not winning the race if you're on the ground. Now you could try to jump into them and maybe tap your back tire on the top of one of them or something. I was gonna try it that lap, but I got a really shitty run through them. As you can see, just those fast bump adjustments and the bump adjustments and just that combined with just doing the right technique into them is consistent, even if I get into them a little shitty. And that's another thing too, I was gonna say, most people think when you go into a whoop section, you gotta lean back like Travis Pastrana style. You don't wanna do that. Your goal is to try not to influence the bike as much as you can. If you watch Ken Roxon or any of those guys that are really good in a whoop section, most of the time they're almost in a neutral body position going through them. And that's kind of how I am when I go through these too. Like I'm barely leaning back right now. I could almost probably let go of the right stick, but I always just lean back a little bit just so I kind of keep it. I feel like it makes it more consistent through the whoops. Versus if you just lean back all the way, I feel like it just throws the bike off balance and it ends up throwing the bike into, you know, you end up missing a whoop or something like that, or you know. Let's go in here and adjust some of the turning. I feel like this bike I'm not washing the front end right now, but I kind of feel like it's on the void of washing the front end on some of these corners. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm not even gonna mess with the offset because I feel like it turns fine. I just want a little bit more weight on the front end. So I'm gonna bump up the fork height to about 7. See what this thing will go to. Holy shit. 25 millimeters, that seems extremely high. I mean, our bike would look like a top fuel dragster right now. That sucker would look like we got the whole shot device on. I'm just kidding, it wouldn't look that crazy, but 25, that's a lot. So we're just gonna go like 7, okay? And yeah, I mean, there's really no big secret to the setup in a supercross track. It's more just technique and just practice. So something I will say too, I didn't touch on our last video, I will right now, but your fork oil level. So your fork oil level, as you read it right here, decreasing the oil increases the spring stiffness in the last part of the fork travel. So say you set up your bike and you feel like, man, like I was saying before, you're not getting enough pop off certain stuff. You could lower your fork oil level and it increases the stiffness of the last part of the travel, like I just said right there, and it will get you your pop back. So that's something you could mess with, play with it up and down and stuff like that. Or say you feel like it's harsh right before it bottoms out, you could raise it and you could make it more plush, not so abrupt. And so yeah, definitely something you can mess with. I should have touched on it back on the other video, but now you know. So I think we're pretty much good on this video, honestly. Run a lap real quick. I appreciate all the feedback and the comments and stuff like that. Just like I said in the last video, hey, if we want to make a little series out of this, we can keep it going. If you guys want to see another track, another bike, definitely throw it down there. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Just, cringy stuff I got to tell you to do. But yeah, as you can see, no problems in the whoops if you just do it the right way, I guess. So yeah, definitely practice that technique and practice the sitting down on the jump faces like I was telling you guys about. I think just doing those 2 little things right there will drop your lap times for sure. That on-off is kicking my ass, let me tell you. To see if I can jump into these things and die. That's all it took. One tap the wrong way and the front end said, see ya. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.